Okay, first of all, Assalamu alaikum. I'm really glad and grateful for giving me the chance to be here with you all. And I want all, first of all, yeah, small disclaimer. I live in Belgium. I met lots of people who actually support the Palestinian case, support the Syrian case, support the humanitarian case. And we realize that we are all on the same page. Even if we have dispute about certain topics, certain approaches, certain groups, but we all at the end on the same side, and we want the same thing. So I really see this kind of meetings is a very good chance that we hear each other. We try then to polish and reform our ideas to add more scope to it in order to process it better, in order to get our understanding and see where this should be going and how we should react. So yeah, that's the main goal, the main idea, how we see these meetings. Like it's very good, very healthy to hear each other, so we can help each other understand each other better, because we want the same thing at the end of the day. So we will speak today about the recent incidents and activities happened in Syria, and this is the agenda. First, let's say first aspect, we will go to the introduction about the geopolitical importance of Syria. Then milestones during the Syrian Arab Spring. This is 14 years story. It's not something we can cover fastly, but I will pick some big milestones which will affect the scope and the context of this session. Then we will speak about the fall of Al-Assad regime. Also, that's the 11 days war. I will go as fast as possible on that, just to highlight the big key factors which also support the scope of our session. Then I switched the last two points. Like, we will speak first about the expected impacts on the region about after the 8th of December. And then I will finalize by highlighting the performance on the new regime, even though I don't see it as a regime right now. It's kind of a caretaker government or intermediate situation. It's not yet in the form of a regime. Those are the points we will go through this session. We start with the geopolitical importance. I prepared this presentation to be like atomic, like no need to go search Google or to, yeah. So if you don't know anything before, you will know the minimum that you need. But I think now at this moment, everybody knows where Syria located on the map. What I want to highlight here is simply like, this is Turkey, which is the gate of Europe. This is Iraq and Iran, the gate of the East. This is Saudi Arabia, the gate of the Gulf countries. And this is Egypt, the gate of the African continent. So Syria throughout history was in the middle of the crossroads between the continents. So so usually the threats comes from here or passes through here. So even when the Europeans are expanding under any colony or under any empire, when they want to go east, they should pass through Syria. And that goes also for other civilizations and empires when they want to expand. The threat always comes from them, from Syria or from the Sham area, to be more accurate, because Syria is something new, like less than 100 years old. But a Sham area, that's usually including Syria, Jordan, Lebanon, and Palestine. That's a Sham area. That's the big topic, and that's actually when the threat comes in between this continent. So throughout history, lots of flows happened over this area. And to add more complication to it, in the recent history, when the oil and gas popped up in the Gulf area, and I will say the Gulf area, I will not say Arabic Gulf or Persian Gulf. I will try to be non-biased as much as I can. In the Gulf area, even though historically I think it's one of them is known which one is the oldest. So, but I will not go that right now. So when the oil and gas was there, then this coast represented actually a shortcut to go through the Gulf. And we all know the dispute and conflict and the threats to close the Gulf, open the Gulf. So the Mediterranean coast became a very good opportunity to send gas and oil through to Europe and to the state directly. And there is an oil pipe through Iraq to Syria. There are two refineries in the Syrian coast. And this pipe, I'm mentioning it here because even when there was no borders between Syria and Iraq, there was no gate to go from Iraq to Syria or Syria to Iraq for 20 or 30 years. The two regimes were too much against each other. The pipe was there and it was working. And also the Qataris, the second largest producer of natural gas, decades ago, not decades, years ago, they were always, no, it's decades, asking to get a pipe through Saudi Arabia, Jordan, Syria, then with the align with Turkey, and that threatened the Russian gas going to Europe. Then they have a new project. We will get you the Qatari gas to the Mediterranean and up there. So geopolitically, it was always important when you want to cross roads in between continents. And if this is not important, after the World War One, the Russian realized that the Bosphorus Strait is not really always guaranteed by the Turks that it will be open all the time. So they may get their ships stuck in the Black Sea, and during the winter they want the warm water access. So after the World War One, the Russian realized that the next step is Syria. They invested a lot in the last 100 years. 100 years. They invested a lot in Syria to be their gate, alternative gate to the Mediterranean Sea. So their ships, if they get stuck, they can land here. So we now see that lots of context is going on around Syria. And if we want to put this actually, that's I had to click this earlier anyway. And if we want to put this actually through the history, I will not get too much back in the history, but for example, in 539 years BCE, Syria was under the Persian Empire. 200 years later, Alexander al-Maqdoni, the Macedonian came and start ruling Syria. And that's, if you see, kind of European culture, European empire. And then the real Roman came, like in like 300 years later. And here we are talking about the Romans themselves. Then the Roman Byzantines came also. And they ruled Syria for quite like 700 years. And during this era, you will find lots of theaters. In Syria alone, we have two huge Roman theaters in Palmyra and in Daraa. Then with the uprising of Islam, the Arabs came actually from the Arab lands, and the Islam rise there, and Syria for the first time became the capital of the empire. And the first and only time it's on history for around 100 years when it was under the Umayyad Empire. After that, there are some, I'm trying also to do jumps. I'm not doing historical research here. Then the Crusades came, and they ruled Syria and the area for around 100 years. Then the Mamalik, which originally came from Central Asia, something in between Iran now, and they fought the Crusades, they defeated them. Then the Mongol kings, which also from Central Asia, and the Mamlukis again fought them for a long time. And then the Ottoman Empire came in the 1500 year almost, and they ruled Syria for around 400 years till the French mandate started in the World War One. What I want to highlight here that we can see the crossroads in between empires. Each empire grow, they should pass through Syria. So let's say the civilization or empires from Central Asia came how many times? This is the first time. This is the second or third time. Also came twice. The European came 2 times, 3 times. When there was civilization in the Arab lands to grow, it also came through Syria. This is also one time. The European came again later. And there is a nice approach here, which I really liked, said by Dr. Wadah Khanfar, if you know him. He said in one of his lectures, like, imagine you bring a person who is 3,000 years old, just imagine for a moment, from each geographical area. You will find the person from Al-Sham, from Syria, the one with the richest context, with the richest spectrum, which holds more stories to tell because of their experience. They lived under lots of variations of civilization, and they had to fight for decades. And that's also when we are now 100% sure that the Israelis will not survive in Palestine, because in the DNA of the people in that area, it's normal that you will get some foreign civilization, and it's okay to fight it for a couple of hundred of years. That's in the DNA of the people there. That's in their culture. That's in their mindset. And for us, even when we walk through Syria, you see this theaters from this era. You see, for example, Al Omari Mosque in Dar'a, which is built during Umar ibn Khattab, during the Arab era, the Islamic era. You see also mosques built through Mamlukis era, Salah ad-Din al-Ayyubi and this era. You see Ottoman mosques. You see also ruins from the Roman. It's very rich. It's very, you know that people comes and goes. And this is from this era, that's from this era. And that timeline actually, let's say, explains and proves the theory about it is the crossroad in between continents and empires. What happened after the World War One or by that era? Syria got their independence from the French occupation in 1946, and that was the independence flag, the first flag of Syria for a very long time ago. It has very symbolism, or facts and sentimental meanings for the Syria, and this is why it's used later now. And Syria entered a military coups actually era. During that time, it was like Hunger Games between military generals and officers. Like they did a rat race to the castles, and in actually between 1946 till the Ba'ath Party came to power, in these 30 years, 20 years, 20 years actually, we got like 10 to 15 president, if you want to count the temporal one or not. But then Ba'ath Party came to power in 1963, and they declared the emergency state, and that's it. And they stayed Al-Assad father and the son till 2024. And during this era, it was military coups till the 60s. And this is when actually the Soviet Union started investing a lot in Syria, weapons, infrastructure. Even you have building when you walk in Syria, you see it looks like the Soviets, like a huge buildings look like the same, exactly the same, just to put people inside. So yeah, and that was under the influence and the access to the Mediterranean and to have a base there. So that was actually the how to see the geopolitical thing in Syria. And we don't have really natural resources. We don't have oil in the meaning of neighboring countries. We don't have gas. And there was a saying in Syria, like Syria is important enough to have influence in it, not important enough to send troops to it, because yeah, there are no resources. And if we look to the Syria during the war and the Arab Spring and the revolution, you will see some of these parties here are the ones which were fighting in Syria. So that actually what went in the last 14 years in Syria actually goes with the flow with the area and the interests between these parties in. That's what I have about the geopolitical importance of Syria. And I think now, if you want, we can. Is there any question or any topic to discuss, or anything that you want to enlighten me about? I'm really all ears.